live, and then
Okay.
there might be. I really do love Zoom improv because I don't have to leave.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it too. I'm actually enjoying Zoom teaching a lot. GroupMind lives online. GroupMind is online.
How much more are you teaching now than before?
Well, I'm actually kind of teaching a little more now because I was doing one class live at IO live on Sundays, and then I Skype coached, and now I've taken over some other classes and workshops online, and I'm going to help be a part of the cadre of teachers that are going to finish out some of the students that have been jilted at the end of IO's reign. So I've got a lot more on my plate right now, but I love it because see, my endocrine issue, I can handle it. I stay in an air conditioned room all day and go online. This Liz can do. I can do this.
I mean, from start to, it's like, oh, my class is at 2, 1:55, I'm ready to go. 2 o'clock, I'm done.
I know. And as much as I miss like the walk down Clybourne and I miss all that, I will say seriously in this heat, I mean, I can do so much more now in this little cave, this little blue cave. We rent this cute little house and it has this cute blue dining room and it's where I do everything.
What part of Chicago are you living in?
Highland Park.
Okay. You like it?
Hank, yeah, I love it a lot because it's very close to the lake. It's leafy and it feels like it was sanity. Compared to Sweet Vegas. We like the school, although we're probably, that Hank's senior year is coming up. So
come on.
I know. He's 5'10" and 3/4. He wants me to make sure to add that 3/4 in there.
He earned it. Oh my God.
Doug, as you know, you remember Doug, right? My husband. He's 6'2", but he's shrinking, so they're kind of eye to eye. And Doug.
Do you remember
that pisses Doug off? Yes.
Remember when we had Doug pull lights once and we did a 30-minute freeze tag? He couldn't. We were doing things like, hey, there's an eclipse. No.
Oh my God! I completely forgot that.
He was so afraid to pull the lights that
he was so afraid to pull the lights on us. Okay, now I'm crying. Where's Kleenex?
It was a 30-minute freeze tag. And I had some friends from Comedy Sports because I just started playing with Comedy Sports.
God.
They came out to see the show and they were like, "Man, that freeze tag, that was pretty long, dude." And I was
what I think I remember Ed Dassey pretended to like swing on a vine and went to the light booth and said, "Okay, pull the lights now." If I recall, Ed physicaled himself.
Yes.
Jay, that is a fantastic memory.
Well, we'll talk more about that after this.
I'm crying.
We've got, I'll tell you how many suggestions we have. So
okay, let's hear it.
I mean, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow.
Yeah.
Pick a number.
I glanced earlier.
We got 34.
Oh, I love 34 suggestions.
So,
okay, well, I'm going to pick 13 because that's Hank's birthday, February 13th.
Oh, well, tell him happy belated right there.
I will. He's a month and a day before you. Who cares?
Right. This comes from Jorie, and the suggestion is, "'Tis a gift to be simple."
'Tis a gift to be what? You broke up on me.
Simple.
Oh, 'tis a gift to be simple. Okay, thank you for that suggestion, Jorie.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, thank you, Jorie. You look like you're about to fall asleep.
I am. I was up all night. I'm in this novel. Well, in it, I'm reading as though I'm the main character. I'm not going to sleep on time. It's good to have a book like that, right?
Yeah.
But it is really getting in the way. I'll be awake though for surgery. I'll be awake. I'll be ready. I'm ready.
Yeah, we've got a few minutes, so whatever you have to do. It's rare that I can't remember the last time I read a book that I got so into. I really, that's on my resolution list, is to read.
Yeah, every New Year's I'm the same way.
I feel guilty I haven't, and it's like once I can get in and find the time to do it, maybe it's. Let me ask you this: do you set aside time where you're like, every day I'm going to read at this time, when I can, or is it just the time you can?
Yeah, I really do. I'm going to tell you how I've decided to become a reader.
Okay.
It's my ex-husband. Everything he told me to do, I could never do it while we were married. But now that we're divorced, he had some great ideas. Set aside a time for reading. Read before you go to bed. Don't look at your phone. But you know me, I'm type A, right? Like, gobble it up. Get into this novel. It's historical fiction. Can't put it down.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, once you get into, see, that's the thing. You've got that staying power. You're like, I'm going to do it. Once you do it, you're going to do it. And you'll spare no expense. And so.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. You know what I find interesting? You anesthesiologists, you guys always are like, oh, I can't do it. And yet.
You think?
Come on.
I can't, no. I know my limits. That's the thing. I know my limits. So there are things I can do and I can't do. And whatever I can do, I'm all for. But the things I can't do, I don't want to take that risk. I'm risk averse, doctor.
Really? I'm happy to hear that, though. That's what you want in your anesthesiologist.
Right?
I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get to fudge the staffing. And I can put you on my staff in the future, Kenny.
Really?
Yeah, I have that kind of pull.
Wow, this is really, I mean, this is a sign because I was going to ask you about it. I didn't know how to bring it up. I was going to bring it up, and I'm like, I don't know how to bring it up.
All right. Well, what I like in an anesthesiologist is humility.
What's the top 4 things? Humility. What are the other 3? Just for my own knowledge.
I check class placement. I don't want an anesthesiologist that was in the bottom third. Like that might be judgmental of me. I checked your class placement, Kenny. You were number 18.
Well, I mean, you should be checking that placement. I was proud of it. It was the third year was tough for me, but I think I rebounded.
Third year's tough. All right, so I checked class placement.
Yeah.
I like punctuality. Who doesn't? That's important.
I mean,
you know what else I like? I think you're a Gemini.
Yeah. I feel like I haven't said that. So you just are instinctual.
I am instinctual, and I looked at your birthday. It's important to me to have Gemini. No one's ever asked me what I find important as head surgeon. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I just feel like, we have more of a relationship than just purely professional. I want to know some things about you. I want to be able to, be there and I want to be right before you think of something, I want to be able to do it. So I want to make sure that, we're on the same page. I think it's very important in a working relationship.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Doctors, excuse me.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but everybody's waiting. Everybody's waiting for you two to start, get the ball rolling here. Everybody's waiting.
Okay. Thank you. I wanted to be upset about that, but I mean, he is just keeping us on track.
Yeah, he is. He's okay. He was almost at the bottom of his class.
Get out of town. Really?
I check everybody on my team.
Well, that's what I like. You're thorough. You're very thorough.
You know what? I'm sitting back. Want some coffee?
Yeah, I would love some coffee. I'm trying to quit actually, but I can't. It's my one vice. I have one vice. It's coffee.
Really?
Yeah.
What was your big hobby in college?
Well, I played racquetball. I was a big racquetball guy. Yeah.
I had a feeling.
Yeah, I like, you know what it is? Racquetball is such a it's the most simple game that there is. It's you against someone else. You know what you're really battling in racquetball? You're battling yourself.
Now that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is really, I'm interested in hearing more about racquetball.
It's really a mental game. And you're really talking about angles and position and where you are. And it's chess meets tennis because you always have to be a step or two ahead of your opponent.
Oh my goodness. That chess meets tennis. I like chess.
Oh.
If you were a chess piece, well, I'll jump ahead. I'm the bishop.
Yep. Okay. Well, it's funny you say that because I'd be the knight because I think the knight can jump and go 3 places. So it's always got a place to go. You would think we would say queen, right? But I think there's more.
Yeah, it's that's expected. That's expected.
Yeah, that's an expected thing. You're right.
Excuse me.
Well, I mean,
Excuse me.
yes.
Doctors, excuse me.
Yes, yes.
I'm sorry, but you know, we've only got the heart-lung machine for so long.
Okay. Well, I mean, doctor, it's
This is getting awkward because I am in charge of timeliness, and I've been written up now many occasions. I feel like this is a personal vendetta that the two of you have against me, knowing I'm in charge. And I'd like some closure.
Yeah, thank you, doctor. I agree. Yes, we'll get ready. We'll scrub up and we'll go in. Good point, doctor. Overcompensating. He's overcompensating.
Me right now.
I mean, yeah.
Sometimes I like to order a pizza right now. Want to order pizza?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay, top 4 pizza toppings. And let's say
pepperoni, 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 pepperoni. Move on.
Thank you. I was gonna say cheese, but like cheese is, if you don't have cheese on it, it's not a pizza.
Yeah, then it's bread.
Yeah. Let's get a pizza.
All right. Kenny.
Yeah. Yes, doctor.
I want to tell you something I've never told you.
Okay.
I have a child I had in high school. I just want to tell you that. I don't know. I don't share that a lot at work.
Where
I'm feeling close to you.
Where'd you go to high school? What state?
Albuquerque, or state, New Mexico.
Was it Albuquerque?
Yeah, that's where I had a baby. And it's it's one of those things. My aunt is raising this baby. It's one of those things where it makes you stronger. Chess and tennis, I had to think strategically.
It's ironic you say this, doctor.
What's up? What's up? Your face changed. Kenny,
I think
turning pink.
I think you're my mom. Yeah, we'll be right there.
You guys, this is unprofessional. This is an unprofessional delay. I have never seen anything so unprofessional in all of my years. I'm writing the two of you up, whether it gets out of my email or not. Kenny.
Yeah.
I could feel it. I could feel it. I mean, I thought the birth date was a coincidence.
No.
My son.
Yeah.
My God, I can't do surgery now.
No, I know. I wasn't going to say anything, but I felt now was the opportunity to say something.
You wait. You thought this? You've already had this thought?
Well,
between us?
That's why I applied to this hospital. Is my mom my mom
oh my God. Right.
wouldn't say because you never wanted your child to know. And so
I didn't want you
never
to
said
know.
anything. But I figured it out.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm actually so glad I'm sleepy. I'm so glad I stayed up all night reading some dumb historical fiction.
I guess you're living a historical nonfiction right now.
We got to get out of this surgery.
Yeah.
We should go to lunch.
I'd love it.
Kenny.
Doctor.
I've imagined this day and I thought, what would I ask you? And Kenny, do you forgive me?
Yeah, of course.
Did you find out who your father was?
About that. Scene.
Scene.
Well, yeah,
Scene.
that's pretty great. When was the last time you and I improvised together?
1996, I'll bet you.
Probably.
Probably at maybe even before that, at a Waka gig.
Yeah.
All right, let's break open the Waka
I mean,
pinata.
I think when I talk to people about your teaching style and what it is, and I include like the guys from Mission Improbable, like, Lloyd and Aaron and Monahan and those guys.
Thank you.
It's always, they bring up the fact that you focused on like the group, right?
Always. Number one.
So I do the same thing. And I'm like, why, I guess the question is, do you think it's because of we were taught that and we gravitated towards that? Because you and I were a part of a group back in 1992. And we went from doing and writing our own material, and then we ended up doing shows. And we did 2 years of shows at a Second City stage. It was incredible. And the people
Monday nights,
bringing in sometimes more than the weekend shows. It was great.
I know. But I feel so grateful for that experience.
It was right. And I think I look back at that and I go, I think we all had that same mindset of like group first, and you don't see that much focus anymore on group first. What do you think? What do you think the difference is? Whereas I felt like when we were coming up, it was like always about the ensemble.
Okay, well, I mean, I definitely have an answer for that. I do think for all of his problems and warts and bad sides, Del is the one who inspired me about group. Del was so group. But you see, we had Waka before we went to Del. So I had been introduced to this concept of group during my teaching at Second City Northwest. But honestly, Jay, I think that there were so many less people when we started improvising that it was easier to find your group and gravitate and be on one group with one group of people, and then you committed to them like crazy, because honestly, and this is going to sound bad, there weren't that many options because we didn't have that many people way back when. So in some ways, the lack of option, you've completely committed to your group. But what you and I both know, and I think honestly every improviser knows that in their heart, that without the strength of ensemble, individually, I'm not strong, you're not strong, we have to have ensemble. And so I think that it was early teaching. I think it was early experience. I know Waka did it for me. But then when I got on Frank Booth, I was like, this is what it feels like to be loved. And we went to I.O. a lot when it was Improv Olympic, and we watched The Family. And so I watched a group, right? We watched a group be this
ensemble.
Yeah.
And take different parts and fit it together, not try to do something else. It was like, no, take your strengths. Also know what your place is that night for that show. Know what role needs to be filled.
Right, I agree.
Who are some of the people in Frank Booth? Because that was a legendary group. So you had like.
Oh, you're the sweetest. Sorry, my laptop got loose there. You're the sweetest. I'll tell you about that legendary group. Paul Grandi, Lily Francis.
First off, wait. Let's just stop there. First off, Paul Grandi, the improviser's improviser, right? Like,
no kidding.
Everyone goes, if improvisers had a vote on who would be like on main stage, it would be Grandi, right? Who would be, he just gets it. All right, so, and then hit me with that second name.
Lily Francis, laugh out loud.
She owns her own improv club. It's in Chicago. There's one in the suburbs.
Right.
Tremendous improviser.
Yeah, Schomburg.
Yeah, buttons these scenes, any group gamer stuff. She's great. I had her for a coach.
And isn't she amazing? And the thing about, Paul, I always say this about Paul, he yeses the yeser. Paul looks at whoever is yes-anding, and then Paul yeses that person, which I think is the ultimate in generosity. And then Lily will do anything. You can give Lily any initiation, and Lily's like, great, let's do it. Yeah. I'm in.
No judgment, right? That's the other thing. No judgment.
Okay, so I'll keep going. Kevin Mullaney,
Okay.
Well-known famous teacher, UCB
Started,
training.
did he start the training center at UCB in New York?
Yeah.
So an amazing teacher. Great.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this about Mullaney. He started IO's first touring company. We were called the IO Roadshow. And we did corporate gigs. This was in like late 90s.
Yeah.
And Kevin and I had many discussions in Salt and Pepper about that. When he was casting this, he's like, I want believers more than stars, just a bunch of believers. And you and I both know the believer is the believer in ensemble.
Yes, for sure. And he's so great too.
Yeah. So then the next one's Brian Bolin. Amazing. He was on main stage.
And also, you know what's funny is I ran into Bolin at the last time I think I talked to him face to face was at like Joyce Sloan's memorial, and she was the producer at Second City. We were just chatting, and I think Brian's great. Two things about Brian stick out to me. One is he wanted to quit. I think before he got Second City, he was kind of done, and then he kept going.
Okay.
The other is he was in Paranormal Activity 2.
Yeah. Yes.
And it was like, I remember talking to him, I go, what? He goes, yeah, I was in this movie, and he loved Chicago, but he did not want to make the move to LA. So he's still in Chicago. He's got a place there. He does a lot of TV work. He does a ton of commercials. So yeah, so you got Bolin, who went on to main stage. Okay.
And before I continue with the rest of the roster, I will tell you what's ironic, Jay, is after a 23-year break, Frank Booth had been getting together to do shows once a month at Laugh Out Loud in Chicago before the lockdown. So we've done like 6 or 7 live shows. We reunited for the first time in 23 years, a portion of us.
Yeah.
Not all of us. And Jay, it was like no time had passed.
But for sure. And like, I look at this list and I go, this gives us an opportunity to reunite old improv groups to just get online virtually and just do shows. Like, there's no reason, unless there was like
no reason now.
There's no reason. All right, so you got both.
There's no reason. Okay, and then John Fisher was our piano player and also a player. You know, he would float from the piano. We would include him, and he lives in New York now, and he's an amazing musical fella. And then I know I'm forget people. Steve Mosqueda, who's amazing, and Mosqueda has had such interesting parallel tracks at the Neo-Futurists.
Yeah, he does Too Much Light.
But Too Much Light is no longer called Too Much Light Made the Baby Go Blind. It's now called, or Makes the Baby Go Blind. It's called, I think, something about a wrench. I should know. Anyway, Steve also with Sean Benjamin. Do you remember Sean Benjamin?
Of course, with Stephanie.
Yeah, crazy. So Steve and Sean have done this wonderful show for years called Drinking and Writing, which is amazing.
Yes.
I mean, I got so lucky, Jay, that I got thrown in with Wakamalaka completely randomly, because I happened to take a class at Northwest and meet all of you guys. Then I go to IO and after 7 teams, I get on Frank Booth. It was a 7-team journey. And I just knew it was an ensemble of my heart. Okay, the other people are David Dunkelbarger, who I think still lives in the suburbs here in Chicago. I haven't seen him in a long time. Kelly Ruda, who also lives in the suburbs in Chicago. I haven't seen her in a long time. And someone tell me who I'm forgetting, because I feel like a terrible person. And Craig Kikowski was our coach.
Not sure what happened to that guy.
No, I don't know. I saw him under a desk in some commercial lately. I don't know.
What got you to improv? Like, what made you take a class and sign up?
Okay, so I moved to Chicago.
Okay.
Summer of '90.
Yes.
I was working as an engineer for Raytheon up at Abbott.
Oh, yes.
And I didn't know what improv was. Never heard of the Second City. I came out here the summer of '90 just for 3 months. I had done theater and dance and quit after high school. I just done with all creative pursuits. And I studied engineering and I went into engineering. But what's funny is I became a technical writer. I think that's interesting that I was still, I liked communicating.
Yeah.
And I was especially appreciated in those circles where communication maybe isn't the strongest. Okay. My boss at Raytheon at meetings used to say to me, "You're funny. Why don't you do comedy?" And I was like, I know, it was my boss, Chuck Settler. And I'd be like, "What do you mean I'm funny?" He's like, "You always have something funny to say about the client." And I'm like, "Well, the client is a bunch of idiots. So that's easy comedy." No, but I'm serious. He said, "Why don't you go to the Second City?" And I remember literally saying, "What's Second City?"
Wow.
So then I look it up, not online because there's no internet then. I look it up in the yellow pages and find out there's a Rolling Meadows Second City stage that was 20 minutes from my house in Downers Grove.
Wow.
They lost my check. Cheryl Sloan calls me and says, well, we thought we were going to have you in for October of 91. Instead, it's going to be January of 92. And I thought, this is a sign I'm not supposed to do this. But I went anyway. Nia Verdalis was my first teacher. I met Bob when I subbed another level 1. And me and Bob and Ed just immediately became great friends. Kelly Ruda was in my first class. So I got into improv because my boss at Raytheon said, you should go to this place called Second City. And it's only because of you guys that then I learned about IO, and we were like, let's go downtown. Everyone keeps telling us to go to Improv Olympics.
Yes, yes.
I was 28. I was 28 when I took my first improv class. I didn't know I liked to teach. I didn't know I liked to coach, Jay. I didn't know any of this.
No, and I remember I was in that class, the class I was in with Bob and Ed was Saturdays. 12.
Then you were in that first class too?
I was in that Saturday class, but
oh my gosh.
I remember you came on board level 2 or 3. I forget which one. I have our first show. It's on YouTube. The first show we ever did where our teacher was Carell, but he was working, I think, or couldn't make it. So we hosted our own show, and we did I'll never forget, we did Day in the Life. And we interviewed an audience member, John Ellis. Do you remember John Ellis? I don't know if you remember him.
Yes, Ellis. Yes.
So we were doing
really nice fella.
Great guy. We were doing a scene. They were fishing, and I came out as the fish, and I got caught, and then Ed beat me to death on the stage, and it was the funniest thing. And for a year, my parents would come to the show, and they would go, do the fish thing for a year. And I'm like, that was an improv bit. But I remember you came on board, I think level 2 or 3, and then we started writing sketch, and I think we all had the mindset of, we want this to be great. We want to I tell people we had rehearsals of just chair sets, like 2 hours of setting chairs in between sketches.
Tight.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm going to say, I'm not sure I joined in your class show. I think I started subbing more to be with you guys, but it was Waka that you're talking about, because my class graduation show was different from you guys at Northwest. I'm pretty sure that it was just because we started Waka before I graduated that Northwest. Yeah. And but you're right. There was so much attention to detail. And I as much as I gave Dassey a hard time about it, Bob, he was really the one who's like, you guys, we have to meet at 8 a.m. It's the only time we can all do it on a Saturday. Right. Be here. And I appreciated that motivation.
Well, before we opened because we did our student show, graduated, and Cheryl's like, run it for a year, or like run it on Monday nights. And so I remember we rehearsed every day between, I think, Thanksgiving and it opened, which was January something. I think we only had New Year's Day off and Christmas Day. And I'm
so glad you remember that. This insane work ethic that I feel like bragging about, this ridiculous work ethic. But you know what it was we all knew this was unusual and lucky that we were given the chance to have this working theater on a Monday night the one dark night. Like that opportunity did so much for lighting a fire.
Huge.
Right?
And do you remember we wouldn't even curse in the show?
Yeah, we were clean.
And we were doing a scene, that song Shower.
Where is Dassey now to get it going? Dassey would remember it.
And I remember we changed some of the words in the chorus to not use the word ass.
Right, we didn't want, very clean.
And when I think Zulovic saw it, and he was like, you changed the lyrics to our song? I was like, yeah. But you're right, it gave us that, and then because I've told people I've never wanted to be on main stage or SNL, but I loved doing Wakamalaka. That was the show. To me, I didn't want to be a part of another group. And so when I think Bob said, hey, there's this Improv Olympic place, you get on stage quick, it's like, yeah, of course, let's go take these classes, But if it was back then the way it is now, do you think you would have done it? Or was there a certain attraction to knowing that there wasn't a lot of people doing it and there was no like, you know, pressure to go somewhere?
No, I think that's a great question, but I've actually thought about that a little bit. I really believe the art itself is what drew me, and it would have drawn me, it would draw me now today. I don't think that the amount of people, I didn't even realize it was a lot or a little until looking back. I'm like, improv was tiny. And of course, we didn't know you could get on TV from it.
Right.
Like, that was still, I remember when, I was at, I don't know why I was at Second City, the day Carell and Colbert were leaving for New York to go work on Dana Carvey's show. I think it was 92. I happened to be walking through there, and it's the first time the only time I met Stephen Colbert's, I think she was fiance at the time. And they were all saying goodbye, getting ready to go to New York. And I was like, oh, they're being selected because of their improv sketch writing skills. How interesting. That was a novel concept. I can't say the word novel though, because coronavirus has ruined the word novel.
Right. I remember I think I was at that as well. I went to that show and I was so nervous. I walked up to Colbert and I said, hey, you probably don't know me. You were a teacher of mine and you've had such a big impact on me. And he went like this. He goes, oh, thanks a lot. But looking back now, I'm like, oh, it's because there were a bunch of people. I don't think it was because he was being harsh. It was just like there were a lot of people there. But I remember learning from them and Rosowski, like play smart and work together. And I heard a phrase you said, is it the bony finger of group mind? Is that the phrase?
I like to say the bony finger. Because, you know, Del taught us that group mind is hovering in the ether and that we have to channel it and we are the humble followers to pre-written art. And of course, this sounds so hippie and weird, but I know we both believe in it completely. Yeah. And we're both people of science and sort of, you know, I believe that this is string theory as group mind. I believe that it's a very small particle physics event that connects us, that makes us know stuff together. And in my opinion, because Del was such a pagan and it was such witchcraft feeling, I always imagine this bony finger like, hey, come here, follow, take a class at IO, go be with those people. Yeah. Make this edit. So I call it the bony finger of group mind. That's just what Liz calls it. In fact, I'm wearing a ring that a class very sweetly gave me that's a bunch of bony fingers. Isn't that cute? Oh, that's great. But it's so, I mean, I think that sums it up right there, where like you got to leave your ego at the door and go, okay, what are we doing as a group that it's going to be so much cooler than anything I can come up with? So Jay, would you say that, because I know for me, leaving my ego at the door, unquestionably, it was the hardest thing I had to learn as an improviser. I'm still, I think I will always be battling my ego. And my ego shows itself in lack of confidence. My ego shows itself in I get too intimidated. And I've certainly had to grapple with that over the years. What's been your biggest thing about learning to improvise? Do you think? I think that's a huge part of it. And I think there's that with a close second fear element. I think those two things for sure. What's the fear? What's the fear? Oh, I think there's a fear of, you know, not doing it well enough. I think there's a fear of there's still a fear of the unknown. There's a fear of, I'm not going to be able to hold my own. There's a fear of remembering back to those moments where somebody gave you a gift on stage and you just stood there because you couldn't make your mouth move because you didn't know what to say. There's a fear of doing something wrong. You know, I mean, you're battling your brain the whole time that wants to do things right. And so, you know, I think there's a bunch of that with the fear. There's a fear of, you know, I'm up here and I'm not holding my weight, or there's a fear of, what are people going to say about this? There's the fear of, oh, I've seen you improvise. It's that stuff. Nothing's true. These are all just stories. Right. Nothing's right. Nothing's true. And you battle. Yeah. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You battle those internal dialogue. That's what I was going to say. Yeah. And I think that's what you do. I think the more you do it, the less you hear it, you know, and I think you go through phase. I went through a phase, Liz, where I'd been improvising, at least 10 years, where I would think about lines to say to start scenes. Oh, I understand that. I understand that.
You know?
I really do. I mean, that is definitely, would you not say now as a teacher, a little bit of a skill that I think we both probably have is you could kind of tell when a student has been brewing a good line on the side.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think I recognize it because I'm like, oh, I've done that. Oh, I understand what you're doing right there.
And I think that's a great point. I think students think we've never done that. You know, where it's like, no.
I don't think students think that about me. No, I agree though. I know what you mean. They think like, oh my gosh.
Everything you're doing, you're struggling with. I've done it and probably worse.
Right.
I tell people, you know, it's not a question of talent. It's not like
It's not.
I've just got more experience and I've just done it more to the point where I care less and less. Not that I don't want it to go well. I just care less and less about what's going to happen because like you said, it's if you look at it like it's predetermined, it's already pre-written and you're just like a vessel, then you can't make a wrong move.
Well, you can't, but I will say that faith and that free fall into the unknown, like that's what is important. And God knows I'm not full of talent, but I know what I am full of, which is I don't go, I don't leave, I don't quit. Yes. I don't quit. That's it. Sharna, one time a million years ago, she hates this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. Remember a million years ago? Maybe you don't remember this because I don't think you were there, but it was a tough night. But a lot of big names came in from New York, and she said to me, "You're not funny. Go back to the suburbs." So I cried for a weekend, but I remember thinking like, no, I actually feel called to improvise. IO is closing. So sad, breaking my heart in a million pieces. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here, Jay. I don't go away.
That's such a shitty thing to say too. Like, not only is it bad to be like, you're not funny enough, but then to be like, oh, here's another dig is like, because you live in the suburbs, like it's wrong on so many levels.
Right, it is. But, and Sharna and I have actually talked about it because, you know, that happened a million years ago. And then my friend put it so well. I went from labor to administration when I went from being an improviser to being the training center director. So I'm working with Sharna in this little office. It was me and Peter Quinn and Jason Chin and Sharna. The office was 2 feet by 2 feet and 3 of her dogs. And so I've made my peace with her and she still says, I don't think I said that. And I'm like, oh, I remember very clearly. But, you know, I thank that because that was a test, bony finger of group mind. Are you resilient? Do you belong here? Do you really think that you want to put your heart and soul into this art form? And my answer was resoundingly yes, and I've never looked back.
Oh, that's great.
Jay,
that's awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. When have you answered already in this forum? How did you start? How did you get called to improvise?
You know, it's funny. I've told the story. My parents gave me classes to Second City as a Christmas present. I was going to school in Central Illinois.
So, yes, okay, because you're from Flossmoor, but that's not in Central Illinois, right?
I'm from Glenwood. I'm from the not quite as wealthy suburb of Glen. It's more down. It's near Flossmoor. It's down, Liz. So I was dating someone at the time whose parents lived in Park Ridge, and so I was like, hey, you should see. I was like, basically, you should see your parents on the weekends. Let's go. Let's drive up. So she had a car, so she would I'd do that or I'd take a bus and I would come up. I would take either perfect. Friday night or Saturday right before class. I would take the class and then early on I would go right back to school Saturday. And then when we started doing IO, I remember staying and then taking classes at IO and then like on Sunday drive back to school. So I was taking it because you all were in it. And so if you all had said, let's go do a glass blowing class, I'd be like, that sounds great. I'm in.
That's sweet. That's sweet. Sweet. I feel that same way with that group of people too. I love that you're putting me in that group, but I see that as a mutual thing for all of us. Were you exhausted? And I don't mean this like in a criticism, but I remember like you were burning the candle at both ends.
I got in a car wreck once after
That's ringing a bell.
It was right before we opened our show. So it was like either early January or late December. because we rehearsed after their show, so it would be like rehearsals would start at like midnight or 1 a.m.
Right. Because we could get the theater, right?
We could get the theater. So I would drive up. I mean, it was with no traffic, at least 45 minutes. So I would drive up from at that point I was living with my parents. Drive up, and then when I came back, I was a mile from my house, and I fell asleep. I woke up.
Oh my God.
My car was hitting a speed limit sign, and it ripped the oil pan from under the car. And I was so nervous, I drove home and then seized up the engine. But my parents were still
I'm remembering that. Yeah. Your parents.
But they were still like, okay, we'll get that. Like they did not. They were very supportive. So they never were in a position to say, hey, you're burning the candle at both ends. Like, because I would go into work, I was answering telephones at a real estate company in Flossmoor. I would get up, I would be into work by 7. Then after work for that like month, I would go get right in the car and drive up, usually watch the show. And then we rehearsed. Right. And I did that for 3 or 4 weeks. We would do that, and I would want to do nothing else. Like I remember those moments of like how exciting to break down a script, to do the things that like Carell or Colbert or Amy Sedaris or Nia wrote. Like to look at that again, not any desire to make it to go any farther with it than that. That was it. But yeah, I was like, all right, cool. We're going to rehearse. Like, it was not a doubt to me. I was like, I'm so excited to be a part of this. Yeah. 8 a.m. on a Saturday. I'm in. But you want to do midnight?
Oh, that's so neat.
I'm in. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it.
What are some of my most special memories too is when I credit John Holtzen, who I don't know if he's around still. He went to Detroit. He was the one who got in our ear and was like, you must go to this place called Improv Olympic. And I remember me, Bob, Ed, and Judy Fadjance would meet in the parking lot at the Rolling Meadows Mall, or like the business center. And we drive in together down the Kennedy to go into IO to take classes there. And same thing, like I'm working a full-time job. I was doing Improv Olympic, and we all went to the city and did the training center at North and Wells.
Yes.
And thank goodness, I mean, I wasn't as young as I would like to have been, but that is a breakneck pace. I'm so glad you weren't hurt more. I remember that wreck now. I remember, I thought you hit a bridge abutment.
Yeah, no. I hit
Jeez.
And would have almost, it was like near a forest preserve too. So I could have gone into the forest preserve. I remember, Liz, at one point I was doing a show. We were doing Wakamalaka. I was doing IO and Comedy Sports at the same time. So I would do Monday nights in the city. I would do like,
that's a lot.
Was she open Thursdays or Fridays at IO? Then I would do Comedy Sports.
But remember when she made the change from Friday, Saturday to Thursday, and it was this huge deal that Improv Olympic was I remember she came and yelled at all of us and was like, you have to bring your friends, because if I can't sell enough beer on a Thursday night, I'm closing. Yeah. And now I look right before it closed. I remember just staring. I don't know when the last time you were at IO on Kingsbury was, but it has these, they almost look like airport arrival and departure screens.
Yes.
That show, and then there's the announcement over the PA for what's playing in which venue. And there were many times in this last year that it's funny, I didn't know IO was going to close its brick and mortar portion, but I remember looking around, Jay, and just being like, going to Thursdays was a huge deal in 94.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I hope that, I imagine that people maybe get tired of hearing about the old days, but I have to say, I don't know about you, but I'm just so grateful to I didn't think I was going to ride the wave of an art form like this. Did you? No.
And I think it is important to also let people know, hey, it wasn't this thing that you maybe hold it up to be as much, because back in the day, you're like, you're doing a show at like IO, or you're doing a conservatory show at Second City at North and Wells, and it's like, hey, if you don't bring in, you don't bring in 10 people, we're not doing the show. And so you go to that Arby's and you just ask people to come to the show. You're like, hey, I'll pay for your ticket.
Oh my gosh.
You did that, or you worked in these places. Remember?
I know. Yes, and Jay, you know what my favorite thing to do at Old IO at Clark and Addison was? I would go out before a show on a Friday or Saturday or Sunday. If we had a show and we had no audience members, go out if there was a nighttime ball game and get the people who couldn't buy scalp tickets, who were ticketless, and I'd be like, okay, you can't see baseball, but guess what you can't see? We're doing some kick-ass improv. And we'd do the same thing, like Frank Booth would buy them all a beer. This guy brought 5 of his friends that couldn't go see the Cubs. They came and watched Frank Booth, and we'd buy him a beer.
Yeah. So
you're right. Like, it was haphazard at best. It was haphazard. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. And it's like, that's I think it is important also to go, oh, I remember hearing from, the generation before and being interested in like what it was like then. And I think it is important to keep that, not to like be beholden to it, but definitely to say like, oh, here's what it was back then. And you didn't have a spot to perform. It was like 10 people got the Second City stages, and that was about it. There wasn't like,
no, that's true.
So you didn't really go even through we went to IO because they said you got on stage the quickest. So it's like level 1, you're on stage remember you're trying to do a Herald week 4 on a stage in front of the family after just barely learning about the format. And so it's we tend to romanticize a lot of the things in the past, but at the same time, there were moments where you're like, how are we going to get an audience? What are we going to do? Like, can we continue on? She's opening on Thursdays now. Okay. So I think it's really, it's helpful to keep an eye on that, but still move forward.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's a neat sentimental way of looking at it without, like you're saying, giving it too much weight. Okay, so bear with me with this leap. So I grew up in the 60s and 70s, right, North Carolina, and my brother ended up being a pilot for American Airlines for years. And I don't know if you remember, he came to Wakamalaka a million years ago, and Kelly Ruda called him Sky King because she thought he was good looking. So funny. Thought he was good looking. She'd always be like, how's Sky King? Okay, my point is with this is when my brother was learning to fly and I was much younger, little, we would go to this little airport in North Carolina, and I would hear the World War II pilots talking. And they would talk about barnstormers from like the 20s and 30s. And I don't remember a lot of the content. I was maybe 10.
Yeah.
But I remember the reverence they had for a few people who were like 120 years old at that point. And I'm not saying that like improv is like flying a plane. I am not trying to say that.
I'm going to say that.
But I am going to say that it is interesting, like people maybe who make homemade violins or, you want to, I think, were the early inventors perfect? No, but do I give them credit for doing something that grew into something that I was able to be a part of? I'm always grateful. And I think improv is only going to get better and better. What do you think about what's happening right now? Like, I think you're right. I think this is a big, much needed transition year. And I think it's also hopefully giving people the confidence to say, I don't need that theater, that city, that group to validate me. I can now do my own thing. I can start reaching out to people. I can take bigger risks. We can start hearing more voices in the scene. I think it's definitely growing pains, but I think things are going to come out of here that's so much. It's going to make it so much better and stronger. And you're seeing people. We have a global reach now. So you can reach out to somebody in Hong Kong or Bangalore or Germany or Canada or any place and watch them improvise. You can work with them. They can bring you on as a teacher. And you see these amazing performers that you never had a chance before to see. And you're like, wow, they're really doing some great stuff. They're really pushing this art form. They're really doing it. They're showing what can be done. They're taking advantage of this format and this technology. So I think it's, for improvisers, I'm just always amazed when we aren't as open to change as we profess that we are. That's a good point. And one thing I feel like I have to model as an improv teacher and coach is I expect my teams to adapt to one another's ideas, so I must adapt to the circumstance. And this is a call to adaptation. But I agree. What's funny is we always could go to these places far away.
Yes.
But this forced our hand. And I think improv my friend in St. Louis who owns the Improv shop, do you know him, Kevin McKernan? I think you guys have crossed paths, maybe not. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, he said a great thing one time to me. He said, improv likes to grow in weird, odd little crevices. And it reminds me of when I lived out west, the trees that would grow out of rock. And I'm like,
yes.
how's a tree growing out of that mountain? I feel like improv prefers a little less fertile soil it's scrappy.
Yeah.
And so improv is sort of dispersing itself and is going to grow stronger in more places.
Yeah.
But and I'm excited and along for the ride. And me personally, now this is Liz's story. Thankfully, I look back with no bitterness. Like, how can I be bitter over something that's brought me so much bounty and joy?
Yeah. I mean, it's sometimes it's hard to leave that bitterness behind if you're holding on to it so much. And like you said, you've got a different journey than other people do as well. And
I have.
I honestly went through a phase where I had to step away for a bit because I was like, I'm feeling too entitled. And I knew it. I was like, this is nobody's fault of mine. And I was burned out. I was doing it I didn't have friends. I didn't do things outside of improv. And so for me, it was like, I got to step away. Yeah.
Right. You know what's funny? Well, not funny, but what's interesting and related to that is I think improvisers should take many more breaks than they do. Totally. Because we have to find things to improvise about. And, when I started working with Jimmy Crane, he was the first one to be like, take Sunday nights off, stay home all night on a weekend once a month, like recharge. And then I said that to Craig Euler once and he goes, you're right. If I read a book about chameleons, then I would start doing scenes about chameleons and that would be cool. Like we have to.
Okay, Craig. Okay.
Right. We have to refill our own well. And I think it's wonderful that you did that. I incidentally did that in Vegas once Second City closed. I ended up spending a few years out there. I was recovering from being sick, but also it was a great break.
Wait, don't skip past that little part that you just said about recovering from being sick. We're going to circle back to that in a second.
All right. Well, anyway, I ended up taking forced and voluntary and circumstance break. And then it made me come back with a renewed vigor. Yeah. I think that's important. And it sounds like you did the exact same thing.
It was the same thing where it was like, sometimes I have to be pulled from things or forced to stop. And then I can take a breath and go, that is something and that's what I found with this. It's like, it is something that's important to me. And then I came back and we talked about this before. I was living in Montreal and I had been working for Club Med. And I was the village entertainer. So I just messed with people all day.
I didn't know you were the village entertainer.
And I would go into the dining hall and I'd have a drill and I'd drill people's food. And it was great. I messed with them. And then I was living in Montreal. Somebody said to me, this was 2000, I think this was like early 2001. Somebody said to me, hey, have you ever seen competitive improv? And I go, yep, did it, don't want to see it. And this was during the Just for Laughs festival. So it was this huge comedy festival. And he goes, well, take these tickets. They're free if you want to go, cool. If not, don't. And I was like, all right, whatever. And I took the ticket and I looked at my watch and the show was starting in 10 minutes and it was like a block away. And I'm like, I'm going to go see. I haven't seen improv in years. It's been like 2 years. I'm going to go see. And I walk in. And it looks like a comedy sports short form show. There's like fans and they go, let's welcome the team from New York. And they call Bill Cott. So the first guy that comes up is my improv comedy duo partner. And then they go,
come on.
And then they go, Rachel Hamilton, who was in comedy sports too. And I was like, what? And I watched them do 3 hours of short form. And they battled another team. And I remember talking to them and they're like, Bill said, you got to move back to Chicago. IO has a 2-story building now. They're doing improv 7 nights a week. I go, get out of here. He goes, no, they are. And that planted the seed. I got on I got on a train a few months later. I took a train. I moved back from Montreal to Chicago. I get off the train. one of the first people I see in Union Station is Ed Dassey, who was in our group, was in Wakamalaka. He goes, I think I'm taking classes at IO. I go, all right, I'll join again. And I go to IO, and I had waited, and then finally I saw the registration. Again, I think I called. There was no internet. I walk into IO.
Right.
The first person I see is you running the training center. I get
crazy.
You go, you don't need level 1. You go, I'm going to put you in level 2. And you put me in level 2, which was Bob Dassey's class. So I saw 3 other of the Wakas, part of my journey, which was like, and again, I did not think, oh, I'm going to do this for a living. I just thought, oh, this is going to be super fun. I got into that class with Bob. Sharna saw me and said, oh, hey, you're back. Okay, you're going to be on this team. And then put me on a team called Super Dreamers. And that was it.
Love it.
So that's
an amazing story.
Yeah.
And when you and I talked about that earlier, I had said that if that's not an indication that group mind isn't alive and well, I don't know what is. And I was saying to you earlier that I remember hugging you and also being like, I have to sign up everybody right now in the booth because there was no internet. Actually, there was internet, but not everybody had a computer. So it wasn't fair to do online sign up. So everyone had to come to IO. And I sat there all day, and Steph would usually bring me lunch. But you know what I loved about that? I met every student.
See, that's so great. And what you are, Liz, is you're such a nurturer that
Jay.
It's true, and we don't have as many nurturers as we used to, I feel like, in improv. Like, I feel Joyce Sloan was a big nurturer, Cheryl Sloan was a big nurturer. You're one of those nurturers, and I feel like it's been replaced a bit with like competition and whatever else, but I feel like nurturing people is really huge.
You know, that's very sweet. I appreciate your saying that. You know, I want to say yes to what you're saying, but I have to tell you, I might respectfully a little bit disagree, and here's why. Because I think there are, no offense to you being a tall white male, there are more...
None taken.
There are more women teaching now than ever, which is kind of blowing my mind. Look, there you go. Bye. Nice talking to you. Thanks a lot. I had a good time. Is somebody at the door?
No, but it's good. Anyway, you were talking something about women, and I just tuned out.
Oh, right. I get it. No, I understand. I wouldn't listen either if I were you. I think though that there is more competition only because there's more people and less opportunity, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know, Jay. I feel like I would put you in the nurturing category. I feel like but maybe I'm naive. Maybe you're right on the money. I don't know. I see a lot of love. I see a lot of teachers really trying hard to just love, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
but I don't know. I know what you're saying.
I do think I'm definitely one of the nurturers because it's what I gravitated towards in my learning style too. It's like, I feel you can do more with someone who's nurturing than someone who's not. So again, it goes back to taking care of that group, which I think was ingrained in us. And I think the members of Waka for sure, if they didn't believe in it, they believed in it pretty quickly. So if it wasn't natural, and I was an athlete, so to me, the team thing I loved. I was like, oh, great, I'll be the point guard, or I'll be the, I'll be the rebounds, whatever it is that this team needs. And I feel we all kind of shared that attitude. You said you took a little break but you what? Do you mind telling what happened?
No, I will tell you what happened. I will tell you. So, I moved to Vegas in 2004, and Second City had a theater at the Flamingo, and they very nicely called and said, would you mind directing, they want to do an improv show on off nights called Scriptless. And I was like, great, I will do that. And then I ended up directing improvised review on the strip. So that was super fun. Then when Second City closed, there's not a lot of improv in Vegas. And I wasn't feeling the pull to start something because I felt so shitty in the heat. I just felt so awful in that Vegas heat. Yeah. And I kept going to doctor after doctor, like, something's wrong with me. I didn't think it was anything big. And I was told to go to therapy and exercise more. Turned out I was walking around with stage 4 thyroid cancer that got diagnosed in 2009. And I had surgery a week later, or within 2 weeks I had surgery. And it was a long, slow climb out of that, because I also have a weirdo side effect of I have chronic low calcium, because the little glands next to your thyroid that manage calcium are called the parathyroid, and they got damaged. I'm very lucky that really my trajectory and my journey of cancer has been lovely, but there were some dark, tired years. When Hank was 6 and 7, I remember I only went to his school once. And I mean,
My God.
I only went to his first grade class a few times. I went like once at the beginning of 2nd grade, and they didn't see me for so long. The teachers were like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "I'm one of your students, Mom." So I spent a lot of time sleeping, literally just 20 hours a day. You can't describe the post-cancer low calcium fatigue I had.
Yeah.
Then I got a little better, and then I got a little better, and then I got a little better. And then the Vegas Theater Hub opened up, and I was ready to start a little bit of teaching, and I was able to travel some and teach. And then that sweet, big plug here, that sweet Mike Birbiglia called me and asked me to coach Don't Think Twice.
How did you connect with him?
Well, can you believe this? A million years ago, he was in a Georgetown improv group, and they called Improv Olympic in 1998 and said, "Can you send out a group? We want to have a workshop and a performance with a Chicago-based improv team." And Sharna picked Frank Booth. So we all go to Washington, D.C. in 1998. We all disperse and teach different workshops. In my workshop, I happened to get this nice young college kid named Mike Birbiglia, and we talked some during that. And he remembered very, very sweetly. He remembered the workshop. And I'll be honest and I'll tell you, I didn't remember him at first. Then when I saw him in person, I was like, "Oh yeah, we were standing against this red wall, and we had this really emotional discussion about improv and how meaningful it was." And he would want me to tell you right now that he shed a tear, because he was so like, I know, he's very sweet. So a million years later, when I'm recovering from cancer, I'm talking to Tammy Sager and Lily Francis, and Tammy, who knows Mike well, said, "Mike Birbiglia says hi." And we were like, "Why is Mike saying hi to us?" And then the rest is history. And he said, "I'm doing this movie, and I'd like to have someone coach some improv. And I enjoyed your workshop in 1998.
Wow. That is, and then could you believe it? Could you believe that there was a movie that was going to be about improv?
And it's perfect too, because it doesn't glamorize. It's not, it doesn't pull any punches. And when I read the script, I was like, I hope, I didn't know him that well. I knew him sort of well from his work, right? But I was like, I hope if this doesn't resonate, I can politely find a way to tell this guy, improv's ugly. It's a terrible existence. And then the script was so heartbreaking.
His character is called Miles. Come on. Miles.
Yeah.
And you watch it and you go, I was laughing at things in the theater. I saw it out here in Los Angeles. And I was laughing at things people were not laughing at, because I knew, oh, that's either this person or it's a mashup of this kind of person. So I was laughing at moments that I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you did it.
That's funny, Jay. Right, that's funny. Well, so what's really kind of amazing to me about Bony Finger Fruit Mind is that if Mike Birbiglia had asked me the year earlier to help, I was too sick. Like, he literally came to me, and our paths crossed at exactly the time where I was like, not only do I feel like doing this, I have a renewed vigor, a renewed appreciation. And then to jump, to have something like that, like I always joke with him that if I'd known he was on the end of my 4-year cancer misery journey, I probably would have been a little happier.
Oh man, that's such a great, we can laugh at it now, and it's such a great story, but that is amazing that what you went through, and those moments where you were just like, you probably felt there's something going on with me. I just don't know what it is. I keep getting people saying it's nothing. I need to do this, but it's not. Like, you knew your body and you knew something was up. So the fact then that you were diagnosed with this terminal condition must have also come with some relief at that time, because you're like, finally, I know.
It was.
Yeah.
It was a big relief. And technically, thankfully, it wasn't terminal. In fact, I'd said to you earlier, I felt a little guilty because they were like, you have cancer, but thankfully it's a very curable cancer. But I was so grateful, but I was always like, I knew something was wrong with me, because low thyroid, you go crazy and you start to think you're nuts when your thyroid isn't functioning. I won't make this a science thing. I want to plug this Mike Birbiglia though, because he is the kindest, sweetest guy who believes so strongly in like the the tenets of improv. And I love that he crosses story and stand up and improv. And he's got a new book out now called The New One that I highly recommend. And it's a collaboration with his wife. So she's a poet. It's just neat to me that these tentacles that started back at Waka. And then I have to mention Judie's Fab Jams real quick, because when I coached or directed a show recently and we played next to Judy's Beat Lounge. Yeah. And Jay, Judy was so special. She was 16, I think, or 17 in our group.
In high school, the first Waka rehearsal, she didn't get on stage because she was so scared. She was 16. And that's so sweet. Everybody loved her. And she, to me, is the absolute perfect, especially level 1 intro improv teacher. There will never be anyone better than her. And she went from not going on stage to being a founding member of GAYCO, to teaching at Second City for 20 plus years, to doing a one woman. I saw her I was crying and laughing.
I know, I wish I didn't see it.
No, she was just a special human that everyone loved. And we were fortunate to work with her. And the last year or so, I was still in Chicago. We actually connected, and I would go up and talk to her, and we would spend some time together. And it was just those conversations I'll never forget. But Judy Fab Jams is one of those people that is just so amazing and had such a big impact and affected so many people's lives through this.
Affected so many people's lives. And also that's like a feather in the cap of Second City, that she was this young kid who was interested and would show up at Northwest, and instead of sending her home, Cheryl was like, okay, work here, do this, and ends up being with us in Wakamalaka. And I remember me and Ed one time having to hold both her hands because she was that scared of me. And Ed were like, come on, you can do it. And then she emerges and grows into a powerhouse. And to me, that's the power of support. I never thought I was anything great until these other people get around me and they're like, we like your ideas, we're going to support it.
Yeah, it was, if you look at that and where we started to then going through that process, and they put us on a Second City Tour Co gig. Wakamalaka did one. I don't know if you remember, we did a gig when all the Tour Co's were booked up. They sent Wakamalaka.
That's ringing a bell I would have never remembered.
Yeah.
Good job.
Oh
my gosh.
I remember a whole bunch of things, and I just remember, I remember thinking, this is very special. I remember thinking that. I was like, now I look back now and I go, I've been chasing, and I tell people this, I've been chasing that same ensemble feeling since we left.
Interesting.
I've been on other groups and I've had wonderful experiences, but I've been chasing that feeling of us putting the work in and looking to each other and going, we really have each other's backs, and getting on stage and being like, we can make anything happen, and having people enjoy it and tell us things like, wow, that show was crisp, which to me was a huge compliment. But
huge compliment.
Judy was a big part of that, and Ed Brown, who, I don't know.
Yeah, Ed Brown.
You know what happened to Ed? Did you hear? So Ed.
Oh God.
Ed, a couple years after Waka, he was in his car. He was in his aunt's tiny car. He got hit by another car, went into a coma, came out of it, but had all these health problems. And
no.
He passed away a few years ago, but because
I'm sorry.
He went down. It was a health thing. And Ed, the first day he was the first friend I met in improv. He had driven through the night he got off a merchant marine ship where he was the cook. He got off.
I remember that.
Drove from Ohio overnight, and then went to Second City class. And so we became really good friends early on. And then Bob and Ed, I became friends with them too. But Ed was one of those guys too that was just he was a ball. I tell people this story. One day we were playing Party Quirks. He got the quirk of picking your nose, and he walks on stage and he goes, I've got the new Cosmopolitan. Do I want this one or that one? And it blew my mind. I was like, he's doing select your nose. What a smart move. And so the members of that group I find that the work we did, I'm constantly trying to achieve that because of the feeling of safety and the feeling of ensemble. And I don't know if it'll ever happen again, but I know I'm just very thankful for that time.
That's really sweet. That's beautiful. I think there's something there for me, at least, too, about being an improv virgin when I got on at Waka. Like I was an ensemble virgin, and that was my first experience of that sort of ensemble experience. And it is incredibly meaningful, and it does stay with you forever. And you're right. Once you have that feeling of safety, you do chase it forever. And I got to say, Jay, that's like so much, for me at least, of teaching is I want people to experience that.
Totally.
I want people to experience that thrill of being so completely safe, maybe for the first time ever in your life.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say improv virgin like I did? Was I be allowed to say that? Is that allowed anymore?
Yes, 100%.
Very good. All right, I did it.
But you're right. It's that feeling of like you're welcomed and you can be yourself and you don't have to put on any airs and you can show who you are, and we go, that's a great idea. Let's build on that. And having that safety, you don't get that. Very few people get that outside of class or outside of the group. So I'm with you. Every time people come in, I assume that they're going to go through a similar journey of mine of like, hey, let me show you how cool this is. Hopefully you continue on your life. And I'm like, oh, that's not always the case for everyone. But for me, it had such a big impact that when I took that break, I said, I remember I go, if I'm going to go back to doing improv, I want to start taking classes again because I haven't done it in a while. And so
that's amazing.
I knew that I couldn't just go back and feel like, hey, put me back on a team. I was like, I don't even know if I want to do it, but I'm not above taking a class again. And it was in that class that I met a whole bunch of people. But I had, my teachers were Bob, Grandi, TJ Jagodowski, like all these people that I had done shows with or performed with. And I was soaking up what they had to say. And I was like, I can't believe this. I cannot believe this is so great. And I just had so much fun. So I did want to ask you,
wonderful.
What would you tell someone who's like starting off or someone who's like in a rut in improv right now? What advice would you give them?
Well, for someone starting out, I always say don't overload your plate with too many classes, but definitely take a variety of teaching theories. Like don't just do all your study in one place because you do have to understand there's lots of different ways to skin the cat of improv, and you want to find the one that resonates with you. And you want to pull from different theories, like, take some of the annoyance, take some of Second City, take some of IO and so forth. So and also don't overload your plate. Like don't sign up for 10 classes at once. You will get burned out because you can't improvise about improv. Your life has to have chameleon articles.
Yes.
And then for somebody who's burned out, what I recommend a lot is if you don't want to fully stop, take a class in something else that is in the arts related to ensemble. Take like a clarinet class for 4 weeks. Just do something so different that you start at the beginning. And I think this a lot for myself. Like, it's funny that you mentioned glass blowing earlier because my husband and I did a glass blowing class a million years ago in like 2000. And I loved it because I wasn't the teacher. I didn't know anything. I literally didn't know how you're supposed to sit near the big hot oven. Like they were like, no, you're doing that wrong. And I think it's good to learn something else and then come back and learn improv again. If you're burned out, just go learn something else, even if it's just a three class short story workshop.
Yeah. That's great. I think so. Like get back to learning. And then it's always there. If you want to come back, it's not going anywhere. So it's there.
Well, see, that was my big lesson. I always thought if I quit, that's it. It'll go away forever. And then no, in fact, improv almost rewards you for setting good boundaries.
Yes.
How's that? Write that down.
That's it.
And I thought the opposite. I thought the opposite for years. I thought, oh no, I got to go to every party. I better be at every show. I have to show my complete devotion. But really, when I started taking care of myself better, improv was waiting for me better. So
good. How can people, if they want to hire you or connect with you or follow you or anything like that?
Oh, that's so sweet. You're so sweet. Well, I recently joined Instagram and Twitter, and I have posted nothing. I am postless on Instagram and Twitter. I mean, I'm on there with a picture.
Consistent.
I can't think. However, I am on Facebook, and I because I understood it better, whatever. I've been on Facebook since like, I don't know, 12 or something, 2012. Yeah. You can find me on Facebook, Liz Allen. You can also, you're connected to a lot of people. I think you're connected to many more people than me. So you can find me through Jay. People, do you like that? Do you mind that, Jay?
No, I love it. Come through me. I'll get you to Liz. Thank you.
And, but mostly, like, I'm on the 3 major, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I would like it if somebody wanted me to post something. Like, I got to find something to post on Instagram and Twitter. I'm so lame. I have been under the radar, Jay. Everything I've ever done is word of mouth.
Get back to glass blowing and put some of your creations up.
Okay. Wait, all right, I've been watercoloring. Should I put this on Instagram or Twitter?
Yes. Look what I did.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do a look what and I'll thank you, Jay, for this post.
Yeah, I did that. I did that painting.
No, you did not.
I did too.
It's gorgeous. I've been admiring it the whole time.
So now you're gonna put up your watercolors.
All right. I have another one. I'll put it up here.
Liz.
This one, see?
That's part of. Yes. Liz, you're the best. I love you. It's been too long. I can't wait to talk with you again. Give my best, please, to Doug and Hank. I can't believe Senior. Come on. I can't believe it.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. You're so sweet to take this time and include me. I really appreciate it, Jay. It's been such a fun memory lane.
Oh my God. It's so good.
Trip.
Liz, I reference you. I reference Bob and Ed and Big Ed and Judy. I reference that time all the time because it just set a foundation. It set my life in a different trajectory that it didn't matter. I could have had whatever teachers I had, but the fact it was that group and we did those shows, that's really what kept me in it. So thank you.
That's so neat. I'll give you that thank you right back. I would agree, Jay, that our time, Wakamalaka, set my life in a trajectory.
Yeah.
I would have never predicted that, and I wouldn't trade a minute of it. That's very sweet. Oh, do we have to go back to reality now?
Oh, no. I'll call you tomorrow. We'll do the same thing all over again.
Sounds good. All right, big hugs.
Bye, Liz.
Bye.